Moon Babe, it is I, Jilly. Here I am with the Lunar Nodes presentation video that I promised you like over a month ago, and very sorry that it's taken me this long to get to it. I definitely have been struggling with a lot of like perfectionism and trying to release that. I feel like when I assign myself something like this, I'm like, what do I know about this? And I'm like, wait a minute, I know a lot about this. Why am I so afraid? Um, but yeah, I do have Chiron and Gemini, so sometimes like trying to convey information. First of all, it's my portal to healing, but it can be very scary and put me in a vulnerable place. So I'm going to try my best to relay this information to you. I think it's very important. I think the lunar nodes, learning about the lunar nodes for me really changed pretty much my entire life, and really confirmed a lot of experiences I was having and really helped me to work with my destiny instead of against it. So the lunar nodes. Everyone has the lunar nodes in their chart. There are 12 possible nodal positions that you can have. Technically six, because you're dealing with polarity between two signs, two sister signs. And so, what really is the difference between someone with an Aries North Node and an individual with a Libra North Node? They're actually very similar. They just have like different paths, but they're kind of working towards the same type of integration of their energies. And I will get more into that because I feel like that's very important. So, the lunar nodes. So what does a node mean? It means knot, I believe in Latin, and that's essentially what we're talking about here. The lunar nodes, we're talking about the knot that ties the apparent path between the moon and the sun, and where they intersect. So, of course, the sun is not moving. We are moving around the sun, but from our perspective, it appears like the sun is moving. So technically, it's really the intersection of our path and the moon's path, but from where we're standing, it looks like it's the intersection of the sun and the moon. So the direction that they're moving and the intersection between them gives us the nodes. So the north node is, of course, the one that is north of us, and the south node is the one that is south of us. Now, this is from the northern hemisphere. I feel like tropical astrology gets a little bit confusing when you go down to the southern hemisphere, and I'm not entirely sure like how it works or if it's like opposite or what the deal is. I don't have any experience living there, and studying astrology, so I really wouldn't know. But for the northern hemisphere, this is what it looks like. Second, trying to do this slide thingy. So the north node is essentially like your soul's path forward. It's like the direction that your soul wants to be moving in. It's where you don't really have much experience. The south node is like it's like rich in experience. It's like things that just come naturally to you that you might not even be entirely aware of and that you probably take for granted. So with the north node, this is where you have like a lot of lessons to learn, and your soul will continually be bombarded with these lessons that you're meant to be learning. So it's very important for you to get in touch with your north node. Like, what sign is your north node in? Those are the archetypes, those are the type of qualities that your soul really wants to learn in this lifetime, that really wants to embody in this lifetime, but it may have a difficult time getting there. Again, this all depends on the native's chart and what is really going on there for the individual. Everyone's chart is different, But essentially, like the North Node, at least in tropical astrology, the North Node is like where we're setting our sights. It's like that is the goal that we're heading towards. We want to get there no matter what. And the South Node is where we're coming from. So the way that I think of it, because they do refer to the North Node as the dragon's head and the South Node as the dragon's tail. And so when you think about a dragon, like cruising through the sky, you know, breathing fire or whatever, it is just unconsciously, it's just going in that direction, is putting all of its energy, its fire into that movement forward. But what's behind it, its tail, is like helping it get there, right? It's like kind of like this propeller. It's like helping it keep balance, you know, but the dragon never really looks behind it and makes sure the tail is doing what it's supposed to do. It's like this unconscious action or behavior. And so that is kind of like how it is with the North Node and the South Node. You've got your sights headed in this one direction. You're breathing all of your fire forward. You're moving into it. You're putting so much energy in that one direction, but you're not really paying attention to the direction that you're coming from and like how that energy behind you is actually helping you propel forward. And so for you to get more in touch with your South Node can really help you move into your North Node. So you know, I do feel like I hear a lot of people talking a lot about people's like North Node and not so much talking about their South Node, but it's like they're both equally as important, right? Just because like the North Node is kind of like where like you're putting a lot of your energy into doesn't mean that the South Node is like chopped liver or whatever. Like we don't care about the South Node. In Vedic astrology, Indian astrology or Hindu astrology, which is much different, by the way. I could get into that right now, maybe. Okay, so here's the thing with tropical astrology and Vedic astrology. They are so different, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure. I don't really understand Vedic astrology as much as tropical, of course, because I study tropical. But trying to study Vedic astrology is very confusing to me because it's not really like as scientific as tropical astrology. And maybe I am a bit of like, you know, I like numbers. I'm a bit of a math nerd. None really, like I'm not like sitting around doing like formulas, but like I like to pay attention to numbers. I like calculations. I like when things like kind of fit really nice together. So astrology was started in Mesopotamia. And basically it was started just for like, you know, planning the year ahead, for getting your crops on the ground, knowing when like, you know, the sun is going to be at its brightest and everything like that. And so it was like a lot about like, you know, farming and preparing for the year ahead. And so what would happen is like humans would look up to the sky and they would take note of the constellations that the sun was near at certain times of the year. And so because they didn't have like things like telescopes, they didn't like have fancy equipment to really track the sun's movement in a more like mathematical way, they used the constellations to like follow the sun. Now, what happened is that we have the precession of the equinoxes. So this is the idea, like when astrology started, the sun was rising in the constellation of Aries. And so that is like where we get the idea of the Aries archetype and how it started. But with the precession of the equinoxes, it's like because we're on a tilt, right? We actually slightly move a little bit every year. It's a very, very small amount. But every 2,000 years, the sun actually is going to be rising in a different constellation at the spring equinox. So, back in Mesopotamia, or back in the day when they were first studying astrology and everything and like learning about it, they noticed, they saw this wobble. They saw that we were slightly moving and that the sun was not completely aligned with Aries every spring equinox. They saw that it was moving. Now, in Vedic astrology, they don't really acknowledge the precession, or maybe they do acknowledge the precession of the equinoxes, but for them, whenever the sun like is in the constellation of Aries, that is Aries season. So it doesn't have anything to do with seasons. Now, the whole entire point that astrology was started, and the reason why we started like studying the stars, was to track the seasons, to better understand the seasons, and to understand human behavior and nature and everything like that. But Vedic astrology does not do that. It does not follow the seasons. It follows constellations. So that is the big difference between tropical astrology and Vedic astrology. And I think it was my teacher who like made a comment that was like, they started studying this in Mesopotamia, and then was like, when they saw that this, and then they spread it all over the world, but then when they saw that there was like this change occurring with the precession of the equinoxes, that information didn't really like hit the rest of the world, and so some parts of the world were still studying astrology and paying attention more to the constellations, and kind of just like disregarding the whole point of it, where it was really made and created, or not made, but studied for seasons, for tracking seasons. So that is my little spiel on that. There's a lot more to it, but yes, that is the main difference between tropical astrology and Vedic astrology. So back to what I was trying to say. In Vedic astrology, they look at the nodes a little bit differently. They think of the North Node as the place that we're like extra hungry, which we are. We're like extra hungry for the North Node. That's our soul's trying to go in that direction. That's really what we want more of. We're like, yeah, give me more of that experience. That's what I want. But from their perspective, this is like a greedy way to live. And so in Vedic astrology, I believe, and again, I'm not a Vedic astrologer, I don't know much about this, but from what I've studied, the North Node is kind of like where you follow your greed, and where you can be like overambitious and, possibly hurt others, and they kind of view it negatively, the North Node. Whereas the South Node, they see as more of the spiritual way to live, like embodying your past life qualities, the gifts that you were naturally given in this lifetime, and really like being in that South Node. Now, I think culturally we're completely different than Indians, and there's a lot I can probably say on that, but I'm not going to get into that. So for me personally, I feel like from my experience, from working with other clients and everything, and of course they're all here in America. Yeah, I don't think I've really worked with anyone outside of America or the United States. It seems like, for me, like moving towards the North Node makes the most sense for just about everyone that I've come into contact with. So the nodes of any planet are associated with the past. They're always in retrograde movement. So when you look at your chart, so there's an example of a chart down here. If you see the North Node, there's a RX next to it. South Node's an RX. They're moving in the opposite direction than all the other planets. They're always in this retrograde movement. And so this is where we get the association that it's from the past. And of course, the moon, because they're lunar nodes that we were talking about, we're only talking about the path between the moon and the sun, and not the path between, Mercury and the sun or whatever. The moon is the planetary ruler of Cancer, and Cancer is associated with family, roots, home, history, and emotional needs. So the lunar nodes are really connected to your karmic past and future, and your way or your modality of fulfilling or lack of fulfilling your emotional needs, and like how that looks for you. Yeah, so like, some people can be really good at like embodying their North Node. Maybe they have a planet conjunct their North Node that is really lucky for this. And other people have a hard time moving into their North Node because maybe they have a planet conjunct their South Node or something. There's something going on there. Now I'm going to talk more about planets conjunct the North Node and the South Node and square the nodal axis in a little bit. But just for your reference, they are associated with the past because they have a lot to do with your emotional conditioning from the past, possibly past lives. Now that is where we get into like evolutionary. Now the nodes, studying the nodes is really like the heart of evolutionary astrology. The nodes with Pluto, and evolutionary astrology, which is an astrology that I do study and that I do refer to and truly believe in, is that there's this belief that the soul like never dies and that we're always reincarnating to fulfill possibly like missions or things that were incomplete in our past lives. So it's like we come into this life with some sort of inherent knowledge, gifts, talents, and they may be because maybe in a past life we were unable to fully develop them or utilize them to their fullest. And so we come back. We just like keep coming back life after life and try to really embody and have our soul grow to the best that it can grow into, like the highest manifestation, highest expression of our soul's needs and desires. And it has a lot to do with emotional fulfillment. And so the information of your nodes, the North Node and the South Node, can be translated through interpreting the signs of your North Node and South Node, their placement in your chart, their planetary rulers, and their placement, and the sign and position of your natal Pluto, and the planets, if there are any, that square your nodal axis, but also are conjunct the North or South Node. I didn't include that here, but so this is a lot. And this is where it can get really tricky, and this is why I do think it is best to consult with an astrologer, maybe multiple astrologers, because the great thing about astrology is that it is a language, and it's a symbolic language, and there's so many different ways to translate this information, and some people may translate it in a way that you didn't really think of before, or you didn't see that before, that connection, and it's kind of like this light bulb. So this is why I always recommend like having your chart read by multiple astrologers, maybe having like one that you use that connects with you in some sort of way, in some sort of profound way that you use regularly, but also like checking out other people, other types of astrology as well, other ways of looking at the information. Because they may bring up something that you never really thought of before. And so there's like so much to interpret when you look at it this way. So like, if you're born with the North Node in Aries, let's say you're born with the North Node in Aries, your Mars placement is actually really important because Mars is the planetary ruler of Aries. And so to help you better understand your North Node and how you may move in the direction towards it, what skills or what can you take out of your chart to help you like get there? You want to look to your Mars. Like, how is that Mars helping you get to your North Node? What's going on with your Mars? Is there a story with your Mars? And so very often, people who have like their Mars in like an uncomfortable position or like something, sometimes they have a hard time like reaching that Aries North Node because they're having a hard time integrating their Mars. With the South Node, now if you have an Aries North Node, that means you have a Libra South Node because they are sister signs. So the Libra South Node, Venus is the planetary ruler of Libra. So for you to better understand where you're coming from, your past, you want to look to your Venus. Where is that Venus? What's going on with your Venus? And this can actually help you better understand how you may be stuck in the past. Because, for evolutionary astrology, for Western tropical astrology, we are kind of like looking at us embodying the North Node, moving into the North Node. So whatever obstacles there may be to moving into that North Node, we want to know more about that. And one obstacle may be that you might be like just really stuck in your South Node. You might be like kind of repeating patterns, like doing things over and over again, like, I don't know, living in the past. And one way you may be doing that to yourself is through the planetary ruler of that South Node. Now, some people are actually meant to kind of relive the past, and I will get into that actually a lot today. So it's not a bad thing to like be living in the past, because depending upon your own natal astrology, that might be what you need in this lifetime. So I did a little, I wrote up a little like blurb about each one, and I noticed like as I went on, I got like more and more detailed. So I feel like the first few are not as detailed as like the ones after them. But I really wanted to just be like a very basic idea. I highly recommend Jan Spiller's books. Like her books are just amazing. They've helped me so much. Cosmic Love and Astrology for the Soul, both of them. I believe they're both available as an ebook, like really relatively cheap, like $10 or something. And her books there's like something like 30 pages on each nodal position. And so that is just, it's really amazing. It's a wealth of information. So that book, and then I would also recommend, Karmic Astrology by Martin Shulman, The Moons, Nodes, and Reincarnation, because again, we do think of the nodes as kind of telling us like how we have incarnated in this lifetime. The only thing with Martin's books, if you do happen to get a copy of this, which, yeah, I like his books, he can be like really harsh. And I feel like, the first time I read mine, I was like, oh my God, I'm a terrible person. And then I was just reading about everyone. I was like, everyone's a terrible person. But we're not, this is just like, I really think he is actually really good at like really pointing out the shadows of each nodal position. I mean, so is Jan. Jan is also exceptionally good at it. This is just much shorter. Like, look how thin that book is. And like, I think he only has like a page or two on each nodal position. So I recommend that book. And Jan Spiller's, and there's a lot. I like Judith Hill's, but hers, I like Judith Hill as well. But yeah, Jan Spiller, Martin Shulman, definitely Jeffrey Wolf Green, and Mark Jones, Healing the Soul, Pluto, Uranus, and the Lunar Nodes is one of my favorites. And and this is like, I guess this is like the evolutionary astrology like Bible, I guess. Because, yeah, and so this has a lot on Pluto, but it also has information on the nodes. I guess it's mostly about Pluto. Which that is also important, though, when we're talking about evolutionary astrology. So, yeah, let's get into this. So, North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra. If this is your nodal position, you want to pay attention to your Mars, because that will help you fulfill that North Node. And you want to pay attention to your Venus, because that is helping you with your South Node in some way. That is, one way to kind of figure out what's going on from your past, and ways to like consciously work with it. So North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra, the native is accustomed to being in relation to others, and they may operate relationships quite well. I grew up with a lot of North Node Aries individuals because I was born in a year where the nodes changed. I have a North Node in Taurus, but so many of my friends had the North Node in Aries. And so I feel like this is one of those nodal positions that I know quite well. And from my notice, my biggest issue with this nodal group, from my perspective and my experience, is this need for them to always be so accommodating and always wanting to smooth over issues, and really try not to like ruffle any feathers or anything. They're always like just so smooth, because they're coming from this past of like just harmony, balance, compromise. They're really good at doing these things. They're really good at compromising, usually to detriment, usually in a way that is not very healthy for them. So the soul is naturally balanced, fair, and cooperative. Of course, look at that Venus placement to get a little bit more of an idea of how, it may be. So like, let's say you have North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra, but your Venus is in Aries. So that would be like a little different. That would kind of come out a little bit of a different explanation, because Venus in Aries is like the individual who's really good at initiating relationships based off of their own desires, their own needs. And so that might be where you're kind of caught in a loop with your South Node. You might be constantly starting relationships in a way that is like actually like egocentric, yeah, I'm not going to get into that right now because I am going to look at some descriptions or examples of charts. So this may be done in excess. It may result in an individual who constantly seesaws between two sides, does whatever will be most pleasing to the other, and the other is like anyone who they are like in a face-to-face interaction with. Libra and the 7th house is all about those face-to-face interactions. So it's like anyone who's like the closest to them, they'll like, maybe side with them because that will bring the most harmony in the immediate environment. Who does whatever will be most pleasing to the other, and who is ultimately unaware of themselves because they are always seesawing and always trying to please the other. What's happening? They're not really pleasing themselves. They're not really being accommodating to their own needs and to their own desires and their own goals. They're always trying to please those around them. So the soul has many lessons to learn about independence, expressing their anger, making their own choices, and being bold, impulsive, and instinctual. So this is basically learning how to be yourself, essentially, to become more aware of yourself, to become really aware of your needs, your desires, and to like just go after it, to be bold, to be impulsive, to follow those instincts. And I do find those with the North Node Aries, also North Node Libra, the anger seems like a thing. Like either they're afraid to express anger, and so then they like kind of like build it up. I feel like that's a lot with the North Node and Aries. They kind of build it up, and then it kind of like comes out in like these big things. It's like just like these big explosions, like, and then like everything's fine or whatever. So it's like they have a hard time with regulating their anger, and feeling like it's okay for them to express anger, which, it is okay for people to express anger. Okay, so North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio. This is my own personal placement. So the native is accustomed to crisis, death, and being financially, resourcefully enmeshed with others. The soul is naturally intense, erotic, and investigative. This may be done to an excess, resulting in an individual who uses their sexual or resource power to manipulate others, is extremely paranoid, and relies too heavily upon the partner for resources and power. The soul has many lessons to learn about staying true to its value system and building personal wealth. So, from my own experience with this, yes, whenever I found myself relying too much on my partner for any sort of power or resource needs, my life felt like it really unraveled, and I did not feel in alignment with who I was truly being, or with who I was trying to become, and it did actually, usually it made me very paranoid. It kind of usually threw me down some sort of dark hole. But yes, I feel like personally I'm very good at being enmeshed with others, and it's almost like really hard for me to get out of that tendency to want to do that. So with the North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio, and by the way, it is North Node in Taurus is considered the exalted placement of the North Node because the moon is exalted in Taurus. So North Node in Taurus is its exaltation for the lunar nodes. They say that, you know, those with the North Node in Taurus handle this pretty well. They make their objectives known, and they can usually handle it pretty well. And again, because the North Node is like the dragon's mouth, or the dragon's head, Taurus rules like the mouth and the throat and stuff like that. And so they say, like, you know, Taurus is really good at, like, you know, kind of like, like, give me more, like, I'm going to take in more and more and more. So North Node in Taurus is the exalted placement of the lunar nodes. And so North Node in Taurus individuals have a very, very hard time. And even I think Martin Shulman said in his book, like, this is the one of the most difficult nodal placements. Like, the native has a lot of lessons to learn, because when you are always kind of enmeshing yourself with others, and you always you find yourself kind of always in a state of crisis, because you're always like taking care of their needs and their values, and trying to organize them or make them useful or something. And so it always kind of like ends up in like these crises for the North Node in Taurus. And so one of their objectives in this lifetime is to learn how to live without crisis, to learn how to find some sort of stability, predictability, you know, all Taurus type of things, groundedness in their life, and to not be like jumping into like these toxic enmeshments with others where they basically lose all of their grounding, and they end up kind of being either controlling of others or being controlled by others. There can be a lot of kind of stuff going on here. They're coming from a past that was really, really dark and really heavy with death, I would say. So like, I don't know, for me personally, my North Node Taurus friends, because again, I was born in a year where the nodes changed, so I have friends in both, and with the North Node in Taurus and those with the North Node in Aries. My friends with the North Node in Taurus come from pasts that are just so dark, and usually there's a lot of death involved. Like, I can talk to them about, you know, going to funerals, like, and dealing with some really taboo stuff in their life, you know, and possibly even like substance use type of issues, you know, because usually they have like a lot of stories to tell there, because it's like South Node and Scorpio, they've really been in the darkest parts, the darkest shadows And so they know a lot about that, and they know a lot about transformation. These are individuals who are actually really good at transforming, because when your South Node is in Scorpio, you're really good at letting things go, at like killing things or whatever, and being done with them. Again, which is why, like, I think they say the North Node is exalted in Taurus. Yeah, so what this native really wants to do is to build a value system and stick to that, and not allow themselves to be swayed by other people's needs, and also, like, you know, the North Node in Taurus is all about like that slow and steady build, whereas in the South Node in Scorpio, it can be kind of like fast. It can be kind of like sudden enmeshment, sudden power, sudden status, like this whole big thing. And so the best thing for people with the North Node in Taurus is to understand patience, to understand the work that is involved with following your path, with following your destiny, and to just like kind of slowly plod along, just keep going, keep working at it. And you'll eventually get there, you know. So like those with North Node Taurus, you don't want to like jump into anything that you haven't really like thought of in a while, like long term. Probably don't even want to jump into relationships very quickly, which is like easier said than done, at least for me. And that goes with romantic and friendships. There might be like these intense connections you might make with someone when you have your South Node in Scorpio, because again, we're coming from a past that is kind of full of all these really intense experiences, and so that means the soul has built up a lot of karma. It might be good, it might be bad, I don't know, but there's a lot going on in the past, and so there's very likely that you will meet individuals from like past lives or whatever who like come into your life and try to like upend it or something, or do something to it. And so you might feel these really strong connections to other people. And that's something to pay attention to be mindful of. Like if you do feel like you have this very strong connection, pulled towards someone or something, be mindful. Like try to still walk into that very slowly, because, you know, it can really do quite a bit of damage on your Taurus North Node. But they could possibly also help you with that Taurus North Node. They might be here to repay a debt or something, because that's the Scorpio South Node. It's like all about debts and stuff. So there might be some like debts that need to be fulfilled from past lives. People might be coming into your life to give back to you, or you might owe someone in a past life, and so they might be coming asking for, you know, what is owed to them. So there's a lot of stuff going on with I feel like past life. I mean, always with the nodes, but I feel like the most with the North Node and Taurus, South Node, and Scorpio, just because it's so connected with the other realms, with the underworld, things like that. So North Node in Gemini, this is the current placement of the nodes in the South Node in Sagittarius. Some texts do actually refer to the North Node in Gemini as also being the exalted placement of the North Node, because Gemini also rules the mouth, like speaking and stuff like that. And Sagittarius is like wisdom and experience, which I guess I could kind of understand. But so the North Node in Gemini, this is our current placement. Native is accustomed to doing things in excess and following their own moral code. That's the Sagittarius. The soul is naturally optimistic, travel-loving, and generous. This may be done to an excess, resulting in an individual who constantly runs to one great thing to the next, who is overly opinionated, who thinks they know the answer to everything, and who is overly scattered and grandiose. The soul has many lessons to learn about fitting in with society, communicating in consideration of others, and taking time to look at the facts of a situation. So, a South Node in Sagittarius, this is an individual who thinks they know it all, because that's kind of like the Sagittarius archetype, is like this intuitive knowing. like, or instinctual knowing. Like, I just know this. Like this feeling like you like know everything there is to know. And so these individuals have a lot of lessons to learn with like learning things and realizing that they actually didn't know as much as they thought they knew on that topic. And so I was married to a Gemini North Node individual, and a lot of my friends, I have a lot of friends who are Gemini North Nodes as well. And yes, this is something that I feel like I had to actually, being in that relationship with my ex-husband and, you know, other friends and stuff with this nodal position, this was something I had to actually become aware of with them, is that very often I feel like these individuals will say something and it will be truth, or to them it is truth. And they kind of expect everyone else to just like, yes, this is the truth. This is how it is. And, you know, it doesn't matter that like someone else might come in and be like, well, that's not my truth. For them, it is the truth. And so like there were a lot of things I felt like, you know, for me personally and my relationship. And I feel like one of the biggest reasons why it did actually fall apart, and of course I know it takes two individuals for a relationship to work, so I'm not like placing the complete blame on him. I know I did a lot of things that I shouldn't have done and whatever. But my biggest thing, or my biggest issue with him in general, was that he always knew what was right to do and what should be done, and he had a very hard time seeing things from my perspective, like extraordinarily difficult time seeing things from my perspective. And so if I accused him, like I was like, you're not listening to me, you're not paying attention, you're not looking at the facts here, he'd be like, you don't know what you're talking about. I know everything, you know, I know everything there is to know about that topic, and whatever, like, it's all just, you know, bullshit or whatever. Like, it was just like, he was just so passionate about his opinion and the way that he may have experienced something as being the truth. And so he couldn't really put himself in other people's shoes. And so that's what's very important for the Gemini North Node individuals, is learning how to like really put themselves in other people's shoes, communicating in consideration of others. Okay, so like just because something was true for you, it doesn't mean it's true for everyone, and maybe you should be a little bit more mindful before you like start preaching about something. Be mindful of your audience. You know, who are you around right now? Are these people going to be receptive to what you're about to say? Should you maybe consider it a little bit longer and maybe look at the facts of the situation that you're currently in, instead of just like assuming you know all? Yeah, and so also these individuals, they love traveling. They love traveling. The only thing is the South Node can be like where you might run into like bad luck. I didn't really mention this, but the South Node can kind of be like a bad luck place. And so in a way, these individuals are actually learning how to stay more local. And I have found that, like, you know, when they travel, it can be like their undoing. They can come undone. And so they can be really good at traveling. They could, you know, it's a natural part of their being. Foreign affairs, like connecting with foreign individuals, reaching far and wide. But it can be kind of like a downfall for them. So it's very important for them to stay more local and to communicate and with those in their immediate environment, and try to be more adaptable to their immediate environment. So like, I don't know, I felt like with my ex-husband, I'm going to bring this up again, who I do think he was a great man. He had friends all over the world, like just all over the world. And it was like, whenever you know, maybe whenever I had like an idea about something, I'd be like, oh, we should do this. He'd be like, I know a guy. I know a guy. He lives like, you know, whatever, like 10 hours away. He lives on the other side of the globe. I'm going to call him up and I'm going to see if he wants to be involved with us, you know, like, because he was always about, you know, with the South Node and Sagittarius, I feel like it's always about like expanding, like just making things bigger and whatever. And so he always wanted to expand upon ideas, and he always was trying to bring in individuals from these foreign places and to this local idea. And it didn't work. It never worked. I was like, no, can we just stay more local? Let's work with what we have in our immediate environment instead of always trying to take like these bits from all over the world. And I don't know, what are we trying to prove? Like how cultured we are? I don't know what's going on here. Anyways, that was just like my 10 cents with that. So North Node Gemini, South Node Sagittarius. Really want to pay attention to what Mercury is doing. Really want to pay attention to what Jupiter is doing. Because that Jupiter can be kind of like your downfall. It'll be kind of how you are stuck in your South Node and reliving the past. North Node in Cancer, South Node in Capricorn. I feel like I have a little less experience with this nodal placement. I do have actually a couple, 3, like decent, pretty close friends with this nodal position. So this native is accustomed to responsibility, organization, perfection, and formalities. The soul is naturally good at reaching success, taking on a position of authority, setting goals, and controlling their impulses. This may be done to an excess, resulting in an individual who constantly demands respect, who is overly cautious, who rigidly insists on adhering to tradition and the rules, and who disciplines everyone because they feel they are responsible for the whole world. This soul has many lessons to learn about unconditional love, being more accepting of the limitations of others, taking care of their emotional needs, and following their intuition. So actually, just right off the bat, what I was thinking of the most for the North Node in Cancer, South Node in Capricorn, I've probably mentioned this before, but I've been watching that show Catfish. It's an MTV show. There's probably like 8 seasons. And I've been watching a lot of it lately, and I'm just floored at what goes on in that show. But anyways, in the earlier seasons, the 2 hosts were Neve, he's still like the main host, and Max. Neve is actually a Taurus North Node, and Max is actually a Cancer North Node, South Node in Capricorn. And Max is one of my favorite people on that show because the way that he approaches, now the whole point of the show Catfish, if you have never seen it, is that they go and investigate these online romances between two individuals who have never met. One person wants to meet the other. They're like, I'm ready. Like, we've been like in love on the internet for like years, and I don't even know who this person is, if they're real, whatever, like that. And so, you know, in the process, you know, they do help this individual meet that person they've been talking on the internet with. In the process, though, there's all these like lies that usually come to surface and deception and whatever. And I just love how Max is always like the dad in the situation. He's always like telling these people, like, did you see how you made her feel? You know, like, do you feel really good about yourself? Because you should feel really bad about yourself. You did something wrong here. Like, you know, lying on the internet. What are you doing? And he's always like telling like the person, like, you need to forget about this person. You need to move on. That was disrespectful what they did to you. And I just feel like he's such a dad. He also has gray hair, and I guess he went gray at a very young age, which I guess is a very common occurrence with the South Node and Capricorn individuals, from what I've read and studied on them, is that they can actually go gray at a very young age because it's kind of like they're like this old person stuck in a young body. And so these individuals, what I have noticed, though, is the respect thing. always wanting respect. Now, I think the North Node in Capricorn also does this as well. But for this nodal position, it's kind of like if you do not respect them as an authority figure or as some sort of master, if you do not recognize them, and then of course this is all depending upon the native, it's not the same with all of them, but they can be like very cold, extremely cold and shut off. Like they just expect to be like almost like not praised, but looked at as some sort of authority figure. And that's what they want from everyone around them, is to like view them in that way, as a person who knows what's going on, the person who organizes everything, the one who puts on the show. And so these individuals can be really good, though, at like organizing their life. You know, of course, it depends on the individual themselves and what else is going on in their chart. But they can also be really obsessed with perfection and like achieving some sort of perfected image, public image. Okay, so there's another individual I know with this nodal position, and they own a shop, and they are so rigid with how the shop looks. I feel like it's actually been one of their biggest issues, you know, because it's almost like this individual is so focused on, you know, everything being like looking a certain way, all the colors being like completely coordinated, like taking out anything in their store that doesn't like fit in, you know, with the aesthetic that they're trying to create or this image they're trying to convey in their shop. And yeah, I just feel like there's like this rigid focus for this individual on like making sure things are just right. And like they can be kind of like cold if you try to bring in something that doesn't like make sense in their situation. They may even like come off like a little bit insulted that you would even suggest it. So yeah, they're really good though at handling responsibility. Like these are some people who may have had to really like care for themselves. They may be coming from a past where their needs were not met and they were expected to be like little adults. And so they had to be so formal, so traditional, so yeah, just really in it, really in that. So what they really want to do in this lifetime is to be more soft, to understand that not everyone is as strong as they are, because the South Node in Capricorn, this means you're coming from a very, like having this past where you had to be so strong and hold the weight of the world on your shoulders at all times. And you have to understand that not everyone is like that. Not everyone has those capabilities. And so you have to understand the limitations of others and be more soft, be more understanding, learn how to listen to your intuition as well. And so if something doesn't feel right, you know, you need to like actually honor that and listen to that and not just like keep pushing on through. I feel like this nodal group might have like the biggest issues with like, because Capricorn rules like the skeleton, so there might be like some issues with not listening to their own personal limitations and like going beyond what is possible for them physically and like injuring themselves a lot. And so very important for them to and care for their body in this lifetime and their emotional needs. Like, what do you need? Take care of yourself. Learn how to take care of yourself. Learn how to treat yourself like a baby, okay? Because, like, you have worked a lot in this lifetime. So North Node in Leo, South Node Aquarius. My older brother, this is his nodal position. So I know this one a little, pretty well, I would say. I don't know how well you can know a South Node Aquarius individual. But the native is accustomed to being a part of a larger community, doing things that benefit the many rather than themselves. aligning themselves with a humanitarian vision, and blending in rather than standing out. The soul is naturally good at viewing conflicts from a detached and objective perspective, being friendly and accepting to all, and breaking free from authoritarian constructs. This may be done to an excess, resulting in an individual who distrusts all authoritarian rules, highly rebellious individuals, who live completely detached and away from others in an ivory tower, and who lacks any sort of goals or personal ambitions. The soul has many lessons to learn about interpersonal and self-love, embracing the limelight and being demonstrative with their creative expressions, and living in accordance with their own values and beliefs rather than organizing their lives around the values and beliefs of the greater whole. So, what I noticed the most with these individuals is like they're so tuned in to like the collective and like the trends and like the collective needs and what's going on with humanity that they can be so oblivious that they have their own needs and that they have their own desires to shine and to stand out and to be seen. So they're so used to detaching from anything that makes them special, you know, anything that like shines the light on them, anything that's like extra. They're so good at detaching from that. They don't want to be seen as that because they think it's selfish or something. They think that if you're not doing something that benefits the whole, like what are you doing? Okay, so these can be like they could be kind of snobby in a way in that manner. It's like, you know, the person who expects everyone to be a humanitarian. You know, it's like, I care so much about this cause. Why do you not care about it? Like, why is this not as important to you as it is to me? And, you know, they can kind of really detach from others if they're like not aligned with this cause or something. I do find though that those with South Node and Aquarius, you know, they say Aquarius, 11th house, it has a lot to do with friends, but really it has a lot to do with like your community and the collective and like acquaintances, alliances, and stuff like that. But I find that those with South Node and Aquarius, I feel like they have less friends than most people I know. They seem to live their lives really detached from society and almost like on the fringes or something. And their biggest issue, I feel like, is their community service. They can actually be really good with like blending in with their community and giving their power to their community, giving their energy, and this can be like their biggest downfall. They can actually really, because is the fixed, I haven't really talked about the modalities much, but this is a fixed placement, just like the Taurus North Node and the Scorpio North Node, Leo North Node. These are fixed nodal groups, and so they get very focused, fixated, like on a path, and they can really stay steady on that course for a very long time, and it's very difficult to kind of like pull them off of it and have them transition or pivot in some sort of way. But the, I forget where I was going with it. Oh. So yeah, South Node and Aquarius, they can kind of give a lot of themselves to like a charitable cause or humanitarian endeavor where they feel like maybe they're doing this for the good of the whole, but it's actually like possibly like hurting their self-esteem or not giving them the praise or attention that their soul really wants in this lifetime. And so it's actually taking away from them. So these individuals can really dedicate themselves to some sort of community effort, some sort of community work or something, and then like find themselves like coming up like empty-handed or like feeling like they're not being recognized, you know, for all of they have done for the community or something, you know. So it's very important for themselves to like kind of put themselves on their own pedestal to embody more of that Leo archetype, to really see how special they are and believe that they are special and understand that it's okay to like shine brightly and to be a little selfish. I know with my older brother who has the North Node in Leo, I feel like he's always kind of like focused or kind of talking about like people who are selfish. Like he's always like, oh, they're so selfish. All they do is think about themselves. And I find that really funny. You know, I don't really talk to him about astrology because he does not believe it at all. But I always find that pretty funny. It's like, maybe it's because you want to be a little bit more selfish. You're always doing everything for everyone else, never really doing much for yourself. Maybe that's your problem here. So, again, look to the sun to see, how this individual is embodying their North Node or how it can best be embodied and what obstacles there may be. And look to Uranus or Saturn. I would say Uranus and Saturn because Saturn is the traditional planetary ruler of Aquarius for that South Node. North Node in Virgo, South Node in Pisces. This is actually my older sister as well. So I know a little bit about this one. Not as much, though, I would say. She's like 7 years older than me. So North Node in Virgo, South Node in Pisces. This native is accustomed to collapsing all boundaries between self and others, flowing selflessly through life, and identifying with the downtrodden. The soul is naturally good at helping those who cannot help themselves, offering unconditional love and acceptance to all, and effortlessly connecting to spiritual realms. This may be done to an excess, resulting in an individual who has no sense of their identity or reality, who cannot say no to anyone's requests or pleas for help, who silently harbors resentment and anger, and who has very little desire to do anything at all, perpetually stuck in a victimhood mentality. The soul has many lessons to learn about setting limits between themselves and others, being discerning about relationships, establishing healthy ones, taking care of their own health and duties, establishing a routine and sticking to it. This will help with saying no to others because, if you're busy doing something, you can't help them. And learning practical and useful skills for the material world. So, South Node in Pisces. South Node in Pisces. Now, the Pisces archetype, this is connected to Neptune, also Jupiter traditionally. So look to Neptune and Jupiter for what's going on with the South Node. And then look to Mercury for the North Node in Virgo. But South Node in Pisces, these individuals really have no concept of boundaries. And it can be like kind of cool. They can be very, very creative individuals. But that no concept of boundaries really gets them into all kinds of like kind of sticky situations because they can be so empathic and understanding and they really connect with downtrodden individuals. They can really get themselves involved with some unsavory people and people who may take advantage of them, who may use them because they're so helpful and so willing to help them and care for them. And I do feel like my older sister has been in a number of relationships where, first of all, she's been in relationships with always kind of like connected to individuals with like substance use disorder, where she has never, my sister's like never used any substances really. She doesn't even drink, which is maybe unusual for South Node and Pisces. These people may actually be coming from past where they had like some sort of substance use issues, and maybe that's also why she doesn't use in this lifetime. But yeah, always kind of being connected to these individuals who are kind of in this like victimhood, this victim mindset, people who feel like they can't help themselves. These individuals can be like incredible helpers and healers. I don't know if this was Mother Teresa's nodal position. I can't remember if it was the North Node in Virgo or North Node in Pisces. But like Bernie Sanders has the North Node in Virgo, South Node in Pisces. So there is this connection, this wanting to connect with those who are less fortunate, and really do a lot of charitable work in this lifetime. Though they don't really have many boundaries. They're not always the best at organizing the information, because that's Virgos. That's what Virgo's really good at, is organizing information, being really discerning with the information that's coming in, deciding what is useful and what is not. And so they can be kind of like these, I feel like almost like starving artist types. We see Bernie, you guys all know Bernie Sanders, I'm sure, like just the way he is, that picture that like just at the inauguration that just kind of like blew up all over the internet of him wearing the same jacket he always wears and whatever. He's just so he's so connected to like almost like suffering and not having an ego. It's like this is like of course the opposite of Leo. That's what Virgo is, opposite of Leo. So yeah, these individuals pretty good at not having an ego and not having like ego-driven desires. But what they really need to do is like learn a skill. That's the best thing for the North Node of Virgo, is to learn a skill, a useful skill, because they can be just so in some sort of spiritual realm and like in this ocean of emotions and feelings and everyone else's emotions and feelings and everything like that, that they can really lose themselves. They can really lose touch with reality. And so what they really want to do is find some sort of material world skill, maybe a trade or something where they're using their hands. It's actually very important for, I believe, the North Node of Virgo is to use their hands, to become more coordinated with their hands, more dexterous and things like that. All right, North Node in Libra, South Node in Aries. So this native is accustomed to independence, self-reliance, competition, and putting themselves before others. The soul is naturally good at pioneering new ventures, self-discipline, remaining active and motivated, and survival. This may be done to an excess, resulting in an individual who has no sense of the other, who cannot show weakness or incompetence of any kind. They struggle with vulnerability, who cannot compromise or share with others, and who sees everyone as competition to their success. The soul has many lessons to learn about relationships, listening and give and take, compromising, equality, intimacy, and overcoming superficiality. I don't have too much experience with this nodal group, but I do have one really good experience with this nodal group. It was someone I worked for a short period of time. And yeah, these individuals are so good at being independent and only relying on themselves. The biggest issue I find with this nodal group is this obsession with competition. Like the person I had worked for basically saw everyone as their competition, including me. And that was a big issue because I was like, we're on the same team. I'm here to help you, build your brand and your identity, and I'm not competing with you at all. Like I actually went probably too far away from any sort of competition that I actually feel like I ended up like kind of hurting myself in the process. But they're just like, they kind of like put out this energy, I feel like, this nodal group, where it's kind of like they have like their vision only, and like others can like kind of sense that. Others around them can kind of sense that they're not really paying attention to them. They're only paying attention to their movement, their direction, what they want, what they're going after, and they're not entirely aware of those in their immediate environment. Those that they're trying to relate with are actually, I feel like, not the best at relating to others. And so they can kind of almost like have no idea what their partner needs, or if their partner, or like even like compromising with their partner, forming some sort of equal relationship with another. They can actually be really, they can really struggle with that. The overcoming of superficiality, now with the North Node in Libra, it's almost like they're so focused on their direction, what they want. But with that North Node in Libra, they can do it in a way that can come off very superficial, because Libra as an archetype can actually be a little superficial and all about kind of like the way things look instead of like the actual like depth of them. And that's why Libra comes before Scorpio. Libra is all about the surface image, the surface appearance, and not like the intention or the depth with everything that's going on. So they can come off as very superficial, and seeming like they are only after, their own needs, and they add all this extra fluff to basically fulfill to fulfill their own goal. I do remember when I was working for this individual for a while, and then they had a lot of other people working below them. But they were featured in like a magazine for their work, or for the work of their business. They had a lot of other people involved with, but the entire article was actually all about this individual, and it did not mention anyone else in the work, which it wasn't just this individual who was responsible for everything that came out of what they were doing at the time. There was, at least like a handful of others behind them, helping them. But the way that the article came across, it seemed like they were doing it all by themselves, and that they almost like didn't need help from others or whatever, because that's the thing with the South Node Aries. They're so used to relying on their own survival, their own strengths and stuff like that. And being completely independent, that they kind of forget that, others have maybe helped them get there. And so I found that to be very eye-opening. I was like, well, I guess that kind of makes sense. You have South Node Aries. Of course, the article is all about you and didn't mention anyone else. All right, I have a train in my backyard about to go through. All right, North Node in Scorpio, South Node in Taurus. This one I know kind of well as well. This is actually my mother. We're nodal opposites. So this native is accustomed to pleasure, fulfilling their own needs, and familiar, steady ground. The soul is naturally good at accumulating and caring for material resources, perseverance, sensuality, loyalty, and working hard. This may be done to an excess, resulting in an individual who is extremely stubborn and rigid in their ways, who has an overaccumulation and obsessive concern for possessions, physical objects or people, because they kind of see people as possessions, and who only engages in superficial relationships, does not welcome challenges or discomfort. Remember, Taurus and Libra are both ruled by Venus, planetary rulers of Venus, and who cannot relate to anyone outside of their narrow scope of interest. Now, these are fixed signs, so they can be very fixated on just one direction. The soul has many lessons to learn about considering the needs and values of others, letting go of attachments to people and things, changing old behavior patterns, and allowing others to take the lead. So with the South Node in Taurus, again, you want to look to Venus, the Venus placement. North Node in Scorpio, you want to look to the Pluto placement or the Mars placement, because Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio, so both. And kind of see how they may be like stuck in their South Node, or what might be an obstacle for them to embodying that North Node, that Scorpio North Node. So they're really good at being in their own way. They're really good at just like keeping things the way they are, So like my mother with the South Node in Taurus, she never got rid of any of her clothes. My mother actually had like a real like. She also had Pluto and Virgo, which I think has another. It's another aspect of this, but yeah, North Node. Yeah, okay, but never got rid of any of her clothes. She kept all of her clothes, and she had them all very neatly organized and in like containers, and they were preserved. They were like just completely in mint condition, like just perfect. Um, she didn't do that with everything. It wasn't like she was like that with everything, but the clothing, and I feel like that's a very Taurus Venusian thing. It's like the clothing, the aesthetics, the things that make you feel beautiful, that make you feel comfortable, whatever. She's really good at preserving that. She was really good at really drawing in like resources just to herself. Now, uh, Taurus and Scorpio, the difference between them is like Scorpio is all about like meshing yourself with others and like getting your power through the connection you make with others, like maybe like building a business with someone and like whatever. Taurus is all about your own personal finances, the wealth that you have created yourself or drawn into yourself. So I felt like my mother never really had, and she still doesn't really have much issue with like financial. It seems like she always has money for herself. It's always been like she always has money for herself. Does she always have money for other people? No. That was like I always felt like it was her biggest downfall is that she was always like very very connected to her own stuff, and she would notice if something of her own was like missing, and she would go crazy and she'd get really paranoid, that North Node and Scorpio really think that people are always trying to steal from her or something. It's like this obsessive nature that she has, probably still has. So they can get really accustomed to having their comfort needs met. And they feel like they can feel like they deserve comfort or that like comfort is a natural part of life or whatever. And with the North Node and Scorpio, that means they're actually meant to be challenged by others and kind of put into these crisis situations with others where they need to like transform. They need to actually transform their values, change themselves in some way to kind of help the relationship or to create more power because that's what the North Node Scorpio wants. It really wants a lot of power. And so for them, power is really like, it can be kind of achieved through like, blending themselves with others, to becoming more enmeshed with others, and maybe finding your soulmate or something. I feel like the North Node and Scorpio, like South Node and Scorpio, it's kind of like you don't really want to find your soulmate. But the North Node and Scorpio, it's kind of like they want to find their soulmate. They want to find that person they can like completely devote themselves to and give everything to, which my mother did. She did do that with my stepfather. She like really just completely dedicated herself to that man, and it was kind of ridiculous. But that is what they can be really good at. They're really loyal. They can be really, really loyal. And it's kind of like what they are supposed to do in this lifetime. But they're meant to be kind of challenged. They're meant to be kind of pushed to change, to transform what they're going, to transform their lives. And maybe like go through multiple deaths or something, like where they shed their old layers and like morph into something new. But if they're so fixated on their money or their possessions, needing to like control their possessions or something, or control others who feel like their possessions, or they're so focused on maintaining a level of comfort, they may never reach that Scorpio South Node if they can't, or North Node, if they can't like let go of, their luxuries, of their comfort, of the way that things have always been or whatever. If they can't let go of that and reach towards, possibly the way of life of another. I think it's Martin Shulman who says like most of these natives end up alone at the end of their lives, because they've kind of like burned away like everyone, and I guess that's kind of what they're supposed to do with the North Node and Scorpio. So they can kind of burn people away. North Node in Sagittarius, South Node in Gemini. This native is accustomed to following logic, adapting to their local environments, and seeing the shades of gray in every situation. The soul is naturally good at socializing, keeping things light and happy, sharing information, teaching, and staying mentally and physically active. This may be done to an excess, resulting in an individual who lacks a moral compass, who struggles with being honest and direct, who ignores their intuition or spiritual guidance, who gossips and lies for social approval, who regurgitates information, and who overthinks every situation. The soul has many lessons to learn about listening to the perspectives of others, speaking and following the truth, initiating meaningful conversations, deep and not surface level or superficial, not participating in gossip, connecting with a higher power, and not using their gift of logic to coerce and manipulate others. So, yeah, North Node Sagittarius folks, I have found a lot of them to be really like kind of focused on their perspective and their vision and their beliefs and stuff like that, and then using like their ability to communicate and use logic to kind of like convince others that their perspective, that their belief system is like correct. And that is like kind of like that's like their gift. That's what they're supposed to do. But with that South Node in Gemini, they can like really like shy away from like difficult conversations where like possibly they are being where they're being like challenged in their logic. When they begin to get challenged in their logic, when someone might bring up something that might like kind of mess up like how they have like classified things in their brain, they don't like that. They don't want to be around that. They want to keep things very light and happy. I do know several people with this nodal position, and the thing that I found the most is like with these individuals, they could just like really be talking a lot and and it seems like they're just trying to keep like the conversation going. And sometimes it's like, what are we talking about right now? I thought we came here for this specific purpose. Like, you brought us here for this specific purpose. You invited us over to do this thing. But, like, all you're doing is, like, talking and talking and talking and talking. And it's like, when are we going to get to, the real substance here, what we came here to do, the spiritual aspect of what we're doing here. And so, like, there could be, like, this overemphasis, I feel like, on the detail, or on, like, sharing as much information about their vision as they possibly can to maybe try to convince you that it is true. And that I feel like that can kind of really hurt the native, down the road, because people are like, I never feel like we're actually, like, doing anything. I feel like we're just always talking maybe about doing something. And it also seems like they lack a moral compass, because that's what the North Node in Sagittarius, they're trying to develop that moral compass. They're trying to have some sort of belief system and some sort of life philosophy. They're trying to build that in this lifetime. But with the South Node in Gemini, they're so used to adapting their mindsets to their local environments' mindsets that they don't have a moral compass. And I know for me specifically, I was like, I really got hurt one time by someone with the North Node in Sagittarius because I felt like they didn't like stand up for me, and they didn't. They saw that I was in this position where I was being taken advantage of, and I thought the North Node Sagittarius individual, I thought they were like my close friend, but the person who was taking advantage of me and who like hurt me was just like an acquaintance, you know, of the North Node Sagittarius individual. But that individual who was hurting me, like reached out to the North Node Sagittarius individual and was like, hey, do you want to be a part of this thing that I'm doing or whatever? And the North Node Sagittarius individual knew what they had done to me in the past, and they still accepted. They were like, yeah, totally, let's do this. And I was like, that's feels really like backstabby. And I was like that. I kind of felt like, you know, they didn't understand how their actions were actually hurtful. Like they didn't see the bigger picture, and that's the North Node Sagittarius. It's like being able to see like that bigger picture of the way things are. It's like, do you not see how like you're just contributing to the harm by like almost like you're enabling them? You're trying to kind of like go along with them for your own benefit, but it's actually hurting other people. It's kind of like this thing, like where they can really like change their minds about something to kind of like fit in, and then it kind of makes them come off as like really superficial and not in touch, you know, with ethics or morality. It's like do they have any ethics or whatever? So that's something they're learning how to develop in this lifetime, is to have a moral compass, to have a personal philosophy. And be more generous, I would say, and see the bigger picture. So look for Jupiter for the Sagittarius, look for Mercury for the Gemini, see what's going on there. North Node in Capricorn, South Node in Cancer. Native is accustomed to being independent and protective of the family and home environment. The soul is naturally good at emotionally bonding with others, remaining loyal to their origins, past, clan, caretaking, homemaking, nurturing, and listening to their intuition. This may be done to an excess, resulting in an individual who over-identifies with the family, origins, or the past, who is overly cautious and unable to take charge in situations, who has difficulty regulating their emotions, overreactive, sensitive, and who becomes overly dependent on others or allows others to become too dependent on them. The soul has many lessons to learn about separating themselves from the family and taking a position of authority, basically growing up. Setting goals and achieving them, taking risks to reach success and recognition, and overcoming their fears of rejection and abandonment. And so this individual, this native, is coming from a past where everything kind of revolved around the home, the family, emotions, maybe even a woman. And what they're trying to reach for is a future where they are being recognized, where they are the authority, where they have reached some sort of mastery in something. And so these individuals, I like to think of them as like these babies. They're like these big babies. I have a lot of friends with this node position, probably because I have North Node in Taurus, and so we go pretty well together. My father is also North Node in Capricorn. My partner is also North Node in Capricorn. And so I feel like these individuals can really, really get stuck in their emotions and really dependent on like the needs and wants and expectations of those in their family, or even like women in general. And I often do see these individuals, like if you're a man with a North Node in Capricorn, I see them all the time, like surrounded by women. They have a bunch of women who are friends, things like that. They're really good. They're just really good at connecting on that like feminine basis, on that like maternal feminine, and really good at being very protective of their family and their home. And they kind of can do that to an excess where they like believe that they're like completely responsible for it, responsible for their family, responsible for their family's needs and emotional states, but they're not. So, like, in my opinion, North Node in Capricorn, South Node in Cancer, the best thing these natives can do for themselves is, like, move out of the home. Like, get away from your family, and set some sort of goal for your future. Like, what is it that you're trying to build and create in this lifetime? What is it you're trying to master? Put all of your energy into that. I mean, not all of it, of course. Your family still is important to them. They find their family to be very, very important. And which I feel like is very noble. I really like seeing that in these individuals, like how much they really do for their family. Like, it's almost like they worked so hard just for the family. But they can also like kind of build up this like, they can build up a lot of resentment though with the family as well, because it's almost like they think they do so much for the family and they kind of expect almost like the family to like give back as much as they do, but that's just not always the case. And so they feel like, if I do this much for this family member or whatever, then, they should love me unconditionally and they should treat me with respect and whatever. And it doesn't always happen that way. Because they have to realize that it's not just about, what they're doing for the family. It's also about their own ambitions and their own goals and taking responsibility. The biggest thing with these individuals is the need to grow up and to become their own person and to accept responsibility, to accept limitations, to accept delays. Because I think that's also the other thing I noticed with these people is when they are faced with some sort of delay or obstacle, they become extremely frustrated. They're like they cry. I don't know, they don't always physically cry, but they can like get so like upset, like frustrated. Why is this not like working the way that it should be working for me? Why do I have to wait so long? Why is like everything taking so long or whatever? They have to get used to things taking a while, because that's what the North Node in Capricorn is all about. Is like the long-term goal, the long-term vision. And so they're really good at taking baby steps towards their long-term goal. But they have to acknowledge that. They have to see that they have to see how good their baby steps are, and not just get stuck in just being this baby and expecting others to kind of do the work for them. So I do find with this nodal group is like, you want them to like start something like, hey, you're really responsible. You have a really good sense of reality because North Node in Capricorn. Hey, here's this project. I want you to do this project to the best of your ability, and like, yeah, I'll see you like in a few hours or tomorrow or whatever, and see how you do. And then like you check in with them, or maybe they check in with you, and they're just like, I don't know how to start this. How do I start this project? How do I start this without your input, without your direction, without you like helping me really get this off the ground? And they're always going to be put in positions like that, where all of a sudden there's nobody around to like help them bring this project or bring whatever it is they're trying to do into fruition, that the only person they have to rely on is themselves, because there's no one there to kind of like baby them. And so that's why they need to like kind of like learn how to take on more of an authoritarian position, be more of a grown-up in every situation, build something that lasts for themselves and not just for their family or whatever. Because their family can be kind of like this endless pit, I feel like. Or it's like they have so many needs and then they don't always know how to fulfill them. And I don't know, I can just like talk for days on that nodal group, I feel like. Okay, so North Node in Aquarius, South Node in Leo. This native is accustomed to focusing on the personal lives and creative pursuits. This soul is naturally good at attracting an audience, remaining determined and willful, playful and creative expressions, maintaining friendships, and promoting self or others. This may be done to an excess, resulting in an individual who focuses entirely on themselves and their destiny, who carries an air of regality that shuts anyone out who they deem to be inferior, who who plays and indulges in pleasures too much, who struggles with controlling their sexual impulses and delaying gratification, and who always has to have things their way. The soul has many lessons to learn about their overpowering will, giving up creative control, patience, accepting the flaws in others, seeing the big picture, and taking the wants and needs of others into consideration. So what I've noticed the most out of this nodal group is their natural star power. There is just something about these individuals that really does draw an audience naturally towards them. And the thing is, they have a North Node in Aquarius, so sometimes these individuals, they attract this attention and then they don't really know what to do with it, and they can kind of ignore it or detach from it or not want it or whatever, and they don't know what's going on here. It's like they're focused on detaching from the ego, because the North Node's in Aquarius, but they're naturally the star. They're naturally radiating warmth and positivity and love, and and people see that. People see that. I feel like they usually have really good hair as well. And people want to be around that. They want to be around. They want to be in their warmth. And so what I feel like with these individuals, what they are really, really good at is taking that warmth that they have, that star power, and just spreading it all over the collective. I feel like these individuals can actually be really good, really good at marketing for others, or promoting others. Self-promotion, that was really good. If these individuals run a business or something, they could be really good at putting themselves out there, as long as they get over that Aquarius, as long as they can become aware that they're really good at it, and not just see that Aquarius North Node and want to detach from the ego and stuff like that. Because you gotta get from A to B. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you got to make it happen somehow for yourself. Okay, so if these individuals can get past this need to always let go of the collective's attention and everything like that, and spread the love everywhere, and see that they have a lot of love to offer just in who they are, they could be very successful. And I think a lot of them do end up being very successful, I feel like, because that South Node in Leo is so powerful. The sun is the planetary ruler of their South Node, and so their sun placement is very important to delineate when you are looking at their chart. And Uranus and Saturn is very important for their North Node in Aquarius. But this nodal group can be very egocentric, but not entirely aware that they are being egocentric. So it's can be very interesting to see it in play, because they do kind of almost expect the world to kind of revolve around them, but they don't realize they're doing that, and I don't think they're even entirely aware of it themselves. Of course, the South Node, we're kind of unconscious of what's going on there. So my cat, Bubbles, I believe has a North Node in Aquarius. I'm not entirely sure when his birthday is, but the birthday that I believe is his birthday, it shows him as having a North Node in Aquarius, South Node in Leo, with actually his moon conjunct the South Node in Leo. And so I feel like my cat is always teaching me how to be confident. It's always teaching me confidence. He just naturally exudes this quality of, and I know all cats are very regal, but my cat Bubbles, he does it to a whole new level. It's he's always just so self-assured, and he's always just kind of waiting. It's he's looking at everyone like peasants. Where is my food? Why is nobody bringing me my food and brushing my hair at this very moment? And he's just so it's just so perfect. I just love watching the way that he interacts with others, the way and he's not like a mean cat at all. He's so loving. He loves everyone. He loves cats, dogs, like he loves every person that walks through my door. He walks up to them, he's like, "Hello, I'm Bubbles. Have you met me before? Like, I am the king here, and you're gonna love me." I just feel like, he's so social, and very warm and very loving. But sometimes I feel like I have to remind him that, like, the world does not revolve around you, Bubbles. It's time for you to, like, share, because I feel like he has a hard time sometimes sharing with his sister. He's always kind of like, oh, her food is also my food, right, Mother? And I'm like, no, it's not. But anyways, yeah, that was just a little aside on my cat, Bubbles. But yeah, these individuals just radiate so much warmth and creativity, like so incredibly creative. They just need to make sure that they aren't solely focusing on themselves, that they're putting their egocentric needs to kind of like help others. So it's like I feel like these individuals can really draw in audiences for others. I feel like they can do like really good like promotional work, community work. I feel like North Node Aquarius, North Node Leo, I feel like both of these nodal placements would make really good politicians. That's just my perspective on that. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know why this one's so long. Probably because I have a lot to say about this group. North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo. I grew up with a lot of people. My younger brother is actually, this is his nodal placement. So the native is accustomed to following the order of operations, fixing problems, and being an example of perfect behavior. The soul is naturally good at understanding formulas and mechanics, being of service to others, being attentive to details, and being conscientious. This may be done to an excess, resulting in an individual who is overly focused and rigid with plans and operations, who cannot admit when they have made a mistake. They can be extreme perfectionists, who criticize the behaviors of others, focuses way too much on what they are doing wrong instead of what they're doing right, who gets caught up in the self-sabotaging behavior patterns, really struggles with changing their habits, and who is always anxious, resentful, hostile in their interactions with others. The soul has many lessons to learn about giving up the image of perfection, going with the flow, letting go of judgments and plans, follow the vision, not a concrete plan, not taking things personally, and establishing a personal connection with a higher power. Now, I love these people. The North Node and Pisces, you guys are some of my favorite people, if any of you are out there. But you're also some of my least favorite people because of that obsession with like focusing on the little details that do not matter, that just really do not matter, and you're just wasting so much time. Let's get on with it, because these people, because they have their North Node in Pisces, their visions of their future can be like limitless. They can be just full of so many magical possibilities. And I mean, one thing I say to people with this nodal group, my clients and stuff like that, Jay-Z has his North Node in Pisces, which I don't know, might come to a surprise to you or whatever, but I was just thinking about like how, like, I don't know if he's the first, but I think he might be the first black billionaire or something, I don't know. But anyways, he's a billionaire, right? He's a very wealthy individual. There's a lot of information on Jay-Z and how, like, he just kept at it. He just, like, really kept at his vision. I'm pretty sure his North Node's, like, I don't know, I think he has a Virgo rising with Pluto on the ascendant. So his North Node is like in the 7th house, I believe. It might even be in the 6th house. I don't know. I'll have to check. Anyways, these individuals, they can be so focused on the little pieces of the bigger vision. which can be good in some ways. Like for Jay-Z, I'm sure it seems like it was really good for him. He was probably like really focused on like how things were going to come together and making sure that he was really discerning with all information and all of his movements and stuff like that. I guess I don't have his chart in here. I could have sworn I did. Oh, I did. Oh, his North Node's in the 6th house. Huh. So even more interesting. So where was I going? These people, they can like take things apart. This is what I noticed a lot with my younger brother growing up. And like, yeah, really good at taking things apart because they want to know how things work. They can be really obsessed with how things work and wanting to almost like, it's like the more that they understand how things work, like the better they feel, the more comfortable they feel, the more that they can like relax and whatever. So my younger brother, he would always like take apart computers. Just constantly take apart. He's really good at building computers. That was like his thing as a kid, is that he was just really good at building computers. But the way that he learned how to build computers was that he was always taking them apart. So like my dad was into computers, I feel like pretty early and stuff. And so we always had like a family computer, like even if it was like a crappy one or whatever. It was like, and my dad would like always like bring home like random parts and stuff like that, and like try to build his own computer, whatever. There was just always computers around. But my brother would like almost take it to a whole new level where he would just like take apart every part of the computer, and then it would just be like a room full of computer parts. And you know, my mom would be like, "What are you doing? Like, get all these computer parts out of here, like put that away or whatever." And then like, I don't think he ever really did put it away. But he was just so obsessed with like taking it apart and just seeing how things work. And so these people can be really good repair people, like really good at putting things back together, taking them apart, putting them back together, figure out how things work, following operations, following plans. They really want a plan. They do not like to just like put their faith in something. Like they really want to have a plan moving into something. So with the North Node of Pisces, they really need to learn how to let go of this rigid vision, this rigid adherence to the operation. Like learn how to just follow a vision and not really just follow a plan. Because like things happen. Life is not perfect. There is bound to be chaos. There is bound to be change. We're bound to like things are bound to not work as they were designed. And so learning how to accept this the natural chaos of the universe, and that things are not always going to be as you want them to be or you expect them to be, the more you will be fulfilling this Pisces North Node, the more that you will be connecting with a higher power, connecting with just limitless faith, and the more you'll be compassionate towards others. Because I feel like this is the thing with these individuals is that I do feel like they care a lot. I feel like they really, really want to be helpful. They really want to make the world a better place. But they can really get stuck obsessing over like these details that don't matter, being really nitpicky with those in their immediate environment, that it feels like they don't care. It just feels like they lack compassion. So the more that they can like let go of like this, it really is like this obsession with pulling things apart and criticizing things and being nitpicky and like, oh, you didn't do this right. This isn't how you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do it like this. And like embody more of like an artistic way of being in flow with the universe, embodying more of like being more of an artist with the way that you handle your life. I think more luck and fortune will come to these individuals. So it's all about like, following the much bigger vision. And like these people can really like make anything happen for them because they can be, they can really put a lot of faith into that vision. They can like just pour unlimited faith into that vision and move ahead with it. And that helps them like so much. That can really make them billionaires. I mean, like Jay-Z, it's just like, I feel like he just had like unlimited faith in what he was doing and belief in what he was doing, and kind of like, there was no limit. There is no limit to what this nodal group can achieve, as long as they let go of like perfectionism, and possibly always like needing to do the right thing, or have this be this model of perfect behavior as well. So recognizing the flaws in others, recognizing the flaws in themselves, and being okay with that, learning forgiveness. I think that's probably a big one with this nodal group, because I feel like that's what I've noticed the most with this nodal group, is like almost like they have a hard time with forgiving, not just like others, but themselves. And so that is like the biggest thing, is like learning forgiveness. Okay. So I think my disc is going to run. I think my disc is going to run out of space, so I think I'm going to pause it for right here for now, and then I'm going to come back and talk more about planets conjunct the nodal axis, north or south, and planets square the nodal axis, and what that means. So I guess this will be a multi-part video. So thank you for tuning in today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Be well.